Bag, I want the bag. Work my way from a garden to a track. Flip it from a track to a plot full of acres. Do it for the farmers and the producers and the makers. What we even here for? Occasionally I ask it. I know it's more than struggling, anticipating the casket. Reap what we sow, trying to fill up my basket. Life's a plantation, I self-law and master. Over the plot I've been granted on this planet. Now it's slanted, cause the chosen been supplanted. But if you overstand it, it was spoken. Fractured, but we ain't broken. Even though some would rather play the role of token, we growing. Black through the essence of a presence. We carry the blood of gods, we carry the mind of peasants. Rich black gardens, future look more like Eden. Multiply seeds like the seed banks in Sweden. Rep my planners on plan according to season. B1 code, switching it up is treason. Black power, family what we eat. Either we get fed or we feed. B1AG.
Welcome black, welcome black, welcome black. This is the B1AG Daily Bread Podcast Show. Here at B1AG, we focus on black agriculture as it pertains to agricultural production, education, marketing, health, food, nutrition, all in economics, all for the black family, all for the black community. Welcome. Hope you're in a great day. I hope you're having a great day thus far, Grand Rising. Today we're going to talk about, there's been a recent series of cyber attacks. You know, I'm not going to talk about where these cyber attacks came from, what countries they're blaming for it. We're just going to talk about the fact that the cyber attacks are happening and the targeted businesses are affecting our daily lives. Cyber attacks, they're still akin to terrorist attacks, whereas they're not necessarily blowing up buildings, but they are disrupting supply chains, supplies of goods and services and products in this country, which then in turn affect our daily lives. So there was a recent attack on the world's largest meat supplier, JBS. They have 6 plants in America, and they also have plants in Canada as well as Australia. And they became a victim of a cyber attack, had to shut down. They had to shut down all 6 of their plants down in the States. So what does this mean for us? What does this mean for the B1 family? And what does this also mean moving forward as technologies become more and more integrated into the agricultural process? You know, technology, the ag tech innovations were meant to make farming and agricultural endeavors easier. But now as we see, with more technology being involved, they're a little bit more compromised. So we're going to talk about how the cyber attacks shut down the world's largest meat supplier. This happened this week, and really there's not been a lot of talk about it, but we're going to dive deep in this today. I'm John Henry Harris. We have Farmer Brown EMC. Farmer Brown EMC. So there's ghosts in the computers, man.
First, I'd just like to say peace to the B1 family. Hope everybody's doing well. You know, it can cost you tens of thousands of dollars to go get an ag degree. You know, there has been a little bit more interest in, really exploring what are the careers and opportunities in agriculture, production, distribution, marketing. But I think right now we can save ourselves and our children a lot of money just watching what's going on around the world right now, because everything you see when we see these cyber attacks, we see the disruptions within the systems. All of these are niches that we clearly see aren't being addressed and aren't being worked by the best possible minds. It's not throwing shades at the people in these fields, but as a B1 community, we really got to analyze, what is our place within all of this. We continuously say here, and the elders will say, when white farmers catch a cold, black farmers catch pneumonia. The same dynamic occurs when you think on a national scale. like you said, these are terrorist attacks. I mean, none of us are privy to the Pentagon papers or, these briefings on where this is coming from. But you and I had a great discussion earlier before this podcast, and I can't wait till you divulge some of your thoughts on what are the broader implications of this. This is the largest meat supplier being shut down, not because the blades weren't sharp enough, not because there wasn't enough livestock, hogs, cows coming, not because there weren't trucks, not because there weren't freezers, not because there weren't a community a nation full of people to eat the products. It was because of a cyber attack. And so we're now in an organic planet that existed long before the such thing as technology, where people's food supply, as well as when you're talking about agriculture, the actual economics is affected because of computers. So this is definitely a topic we need to deep dive into. Here at B1AG, we're about solutions, but in order to get to formidable solutions, we really have to lay out what the issues are that affect these solutions we want.
It's crazy because we're just recovering from the Colonial Pipeline cyber attack. It really affected where I'm from. The day that cyber attack happened and the pipeline was shut down, literally there was a panic rush to the gas pumps, and the city where I'm in, there was no gas for days. It was like a real thing. There are other parts of the East Coast. It's now the Colonial Pipeline that supplied 45% of the gas for the entire eastern coast of the United States of America. So it was a major deal in certain cities. Other cities weren't affected that bad. Overall, gas prices did rise. So at the end of the day, all these little cyber attacks, the end result always ends up being we're gonna have to pay more. We have to pay more. The consumers have to pay more. We're gonna have to pay more at the pump. We're gonna have to pay more at the store. Now, you couple this with the administration, the current administration, as well as states, they're cutting off a lot of this pandemic help, all the stimulus help, unemployment, over benefits. They're cutting things down as prices are rising, and cyber attacks are not only affecting the prices of these products that we need to consume, or these necessary products, but moving forward in the future, like, how are we going to make sure that we can be protected by these cyber attacks, rising prices, as well as product scarcity? Now,
Pardon my immaturity, but I like to play connect the dots sometimes. So if you remember back when the health crisis started back in last March, there was a run on toilet tissue. There's still a run on toilet tissue right now. We don't see news stories about it, but according to financialtimes.com, so right now there's a shortage on chicken wings. There's a shortage on diapers, computer chips, used car rentals, plastic palm oil, truckers, rideshare drivers, lumber, bacon, hot dogs, cheese, coffee, olive oil, corn, oxygen, and labor. You were just bringing up. So right now there are 25 states who are seriously discussing cutting off unemployment benefits in September. When we connect these dots, none of these news stories, though they seem to come from different sources, so though it seems to be in different sectors, it all culminates into the quality of life of where here when we're having this conversation, we're talking about the B1 community. What does this look like when, so a lot of us, okay, we have to eat pork or hot dogs or, whatever food is available. What does this look like when we also know that we're the group that has to travel the longest when it comes to actually getting food compared to other groups? When there's a shortage of rideshare drivers. There's a shortage of used cars. There's a shortage of rental cars. To get a rental car is going to cost you more. I was just reading a story now. They were talking about these barges, and they're making record numbers of transporting journeys, but these are like $1 million journeys. Like it's costing $1 million just to ship something from point A to point B. And like you were just pointing out, we as the consumer end up paying the cost for this. We can go on and on about these issues because when you connect the dots, you see, okay, whether nefarious or whether just the inadequacy of the opaque layer, trying to coordinate a global society, this is inevitably going to affect our families. And when we have this B1AG conversation, we really want to focus it around agriculture. We can't stress enough, and this is why stories like this are important. A lot of times, you're just clout chasing. What does this have to do with agriculture? Food, fuel, and fiber. What do humans need to survive? Food, warm air, and social acceptability. It's hard to be friendly. It's hard to be amiable with one another when you're hungry, when you're in crisis mode, wondering, okay, am I going to be able to get from point A to point B? Am I going to have the gasoline? Okay, I might have money now, but what value does my money have if what I'm buying continuously goes up? When we talk about the crime rates, and so we have a faction defunding the police and all of these things, which I'm not giving my opinion on that. But okay, so now you have these areas full of contention. And it's not to say, black people are just blooping and committing crimes, but there is a thing, as a father, I hope I don't run into a situation where I have to do what I got to do to feed my kids because I'm going to do what I got to do. And so you multiply that times millions of people across America right now who are what I feel like we're getting, we're in this hamster wheel of dependency. And when we see all of these factions at play, we know a lot of these corporations made billions of dollars over this pandemic. And, we like to say here in North America, follow the money. And so money's making money off of these crises. And so this kind of goes to what you were saying earlier, if you want to expound on that. What if some of this is intentional?
Well, our audience may not know, but I'm just the type of person that I like to connect dots to. I can't help it. I used to watch Pee Wee Herman growing up. Connect the dots, la 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 la. Connect the dots, la 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 la. So, so as an economist, I connect dots, and these dots are starting to reveal a pretty disturbing picture. I will get into it a little later, but first, what I would like to do is, read our copyright disclosure. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news, reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Now, I have a video from Good Morning America. They were just reporting on the cyber attacks at JBS, the world's largest meat supplier. So, family, check this out. I hope y'all, put your listening caps on and just try to connect some dots. See what dots may connect in your own head, where you may see possible issues or even possible solutions.
A new ransomware attack, this time on the U.S. beef supply. It appears to be part of a strategy to target our daily life. First, the Colonial Pipeline attack raises gas prices for millions of Americans. Now, this attack raises food prices across the country.
That's because JBS Foods is one of the largest meat producers in the world. It was forced to bring all of its U.S. plants to a halt after this crippling cyber attack. The White House, as we said, issuing that stern warning for Russia. We are now just weeks away from that summit between President Biden and Vladimir Putin.
The attack sparking fears here that there could be a supply shortage as we head into barbecue season and a huge price hike. ABC's Will Carr is at the company's headquarters in Greeley, Colorado, with the latest this morning. Good morning, Will.
Good morning, Michael. First, hackers hit the country's gas supply. Now they've hit the meat supply, shutting down work at the facility behind me, one of the largest in the country. And as these hackers are getting more brazen, experts are warning companies to be on the lookout.
Overnight, America's largest meat supplier recovering from a targeted attack. Meat producer JBS declaring significant progress has been made to get back up and running after a ransomware attack after an alleged Russian-based group forced a shutdown of all 9 U.S. beef plants and others in Canada and Australia. The hack impacted all of the JBS facilities in some capacity, with JBS now saying the vast majority of our beef, pork, poultry, and prepared food plants will be operational. The company accounts for close to a quarter of all U.S. beef production and roughly a fifth of pork production.
Preliminary reports suggest that it was a hacker group called Revil, or ransomware evil. They sell ransomware to customers, essentially, to help those customers breach and raise money from honest companies.
The attack hitting as summer celebrations ramp up, with Father's Day and July 4th just around the corner. So far, experts say the quality and safety of the meat has not been impacted. The attack, the second in recent months on a major U.S. company. Just last month, the Colonial Pipeline targeted by Russian hackers, causing a gas shortage and forcing thousands of American gas stations to close. Now this morning, many worry that the rise in these types of attacks can put other companies at risk.
Ransomware attacks are on the rise. I think a lot of companies are getting the message now that previously they felt they might be beyond the target set of these hacker groups, and they'll now have to think again. They'll have to invest more in better preventive controls, increase their resilience. We can do things to improve our capabilities.
You may remember that Colonial Pipeline paid the group that hacked its company more than $4 million in Bitcoin. This morning, it's unclear if anybody's paid a ransom in this case.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here.
Localize your food system. Like we were talking about with the ride share. So we know the average black family, though we make considerably less, we end up spending more, not only money, but time trying to get to food, which a lot of times isn't as quality. When we talk about this localizing food systems, and so I think it's very interesting in a sobering way that this is the largest beef processor. And so just to kind of keep it simple, stupid. And so if I'm a farmer, I have livestock, which we know 48% of the black farmers are raising livestock. You have to wait in the line to get your livestock processed at a butcher. When we talk about different niches in agriculture, I know in the state of Kentucky, I was fortunate to meet peace to the elder Graves, Foster Graves. We don't have any more black butchers in Kentucky. And so now the farmers in Kentucky who are raising livestock, you have to wait in line for the other, 50-some thousand, 60-some thousand other farmers who are in line for this processor. What do we know about getting in the VIP status at the club? The people at the club's going to look out for the homies first. And so when we're talking about this agricultural club, it works the same way. How much time and energy will we exhaust? Black butchers matter, black livestock matters versus actually taking the time now in 2021, since we see that this is an issue, raising up these localized groups of processors, meat processors and butchers. Not only that, how do we localize how people get their meat? And so say if my meat consumption is completely dependent on Kroger, Publix, Sunflower, Costco, Walmart, one of these stores, guess where the price is going to go up? Guess who might not have access to the selection of meat that I want? But there's nothing like having a CSA or having some sort of program, once again, working cooperatively. So no one person is going to get a cow. You're not going to eat a whole cow in a year. But if you have multiple families on the block, find a black farmer who's already raising livestock. It doesn't mean you got to go out and buy your own, but go in together, spend about $2,400, split it up with about 5 families, and you're going to have your annual beef intake. For example, the same way will work with poultry as well. Find a poultry producer and work directly with them. And so now one thing, you're helping yourself as the consumer, because you're directly talking to or working with the producer who's producing what it is you're eating, whether it's your vegetables, but in this case, we're talking about meat. This helps the producer because now they don't have to worry about, okay, am I going to have a market? Is somebody going to let me come and sell my product at their store? No, I'm working directly with people within these communities who are going to eat. Now, as a producer, and these people let me know, okay, hey, we know you got chicken for us. We don't want you to use hormones. And so as a conscientious producer, okay, now that you've let me know you're going to buy this, you paid me half of it up front. So y'all are working cooperative, so nobody's going broke. Each of you pay me half of what I'm going to give you up front. So now this helps me as a farmer to be able to raise my chickens, to be able to raise my cows and feed them what it is you want. So I'm not having to take a risk coming out of my pocket just to be, insecure whether or not I'm going to have a buyer. We have to multiply this effect. And this is what we mean when we talk about localizing our food system. Because guess what this farmer can now do? This farmer doesn't have to send it to a storage facility, then send it to a grocery store, and then have it sitting for X amount of time. Doesn't have to put a lot of dyes and preservatives and all of this, because he already knows the family. He already knows the purchasing groups or cooperative who's buying it. So now I can bring it directly to you, or you can bring the kids out and come visit the farm. But saying that to say, it seems like I'm simplifying it, but this is absolutely what we're going to have to do if we're going to stave off against. We see that these ransomware attacks are going to be more prevalent. Follow the money. Okay, if I'm one of these hackers, I realize like, wow, I can literally just go after all of these components of society that people need, and they're going to have to pay me something, or I'm going to keep attacking their system. This can only be done if your system is heavily dependent upon technology and computers. I'm not sitting here saying that technology doesn't have its place in agriculture, because technology isn't always a device. Technology is, okay, I have an extension of my hand, I have an extension of my brain, I have an extension of my leg, my body, to to complete a task more efficiently. But when we're at a point where the beef, a living organism that real human beings are producing, feed throughout the season, is now compromised because of a computer, we really have to ask ourselves, where are we at as a nation? Are we moving forward when it comes to this goal of better food security? Are we putting ourselves in a dependent state? There's profit in dependency. And historically, if we look at history, we see that there's a big profit specifically in Black dependency. So here at B1AG, our discussion is, what can we do to at least cut down this dependency? Something as simple as our meat intake. Some people could take on a vegan or vegetarian diet. Okay, hey, for me to stave against what happened at JBS, I'll just stop eating meat. Everybody doesn't have that option, and everybody doesn't want to go vegetarian or vegan. It is an option. Do we incorporate fasting more within our culture? That's an option, but some people aren't with fasting. That's just not what they do. Some people just really need their protein. And so these are all discussions we need to have, and not in isolated silos, more so than when we talk about the tangibles that we want. I know at the Tulsa event, a lot of people are talking about, hold up. Now, where are the tangibles? Were they talking about the Black farmers? Because when Tulsa got hit, guess what? There were Black producers that were affected. There were Black markets where food, different products were being sold. Was there some sort of compensation? Was there some sort of was there some sort of reparation for the damage that was done to that? Okay, that was done. What do people say? Oh, leave the past in the past. Okay, well, these families were affected. Are y'all making land available near Oklahoma, near Tulsa? Since we're all, so sympathetic to what happened in Tulsa. Biden, are you making land available for them? Are you making it easier for these farmers, the children, the grandchildren of the people who suffered? Are you making it easier for them to break into a market? For those that have veered away, because we know on average we're 3 generations separated from a farm, are you making sure there's scholarships? I know they keep pushing this school. Yeah, school is great, but we also need tradesmen. And so are we creating these tangible opportunities, not for everybody, but the group who's been affected? Because we are absolutely affected when all of these attacks and shutdowns happen. We need to have these conversations last week.
In my mind, I can't help but, because when the pandemic first kicked off last year, one of the main places that was hit hard by the pandemic and were the meat processing plants, because a lot of the workers, they came down with COVID and they had to shut down for literal security of the meat. They didn't want to be transferring COVID through the meat or our food because the workers are sick. It's like a real health crisis, a real health issue. But again, now those same meat suppliers, they get hit by cyber attack. And I can't help but wonder if this is on purpose? Or is this just a convenient excuse? If you think about it, now the world, when I say the world, I mean the world, Craig, the whole world, they're committed to reducing carbon emissions. So that means these gas combustible cars that we drive, they're phasing them out. They're phasing them out. Everything is going to be an electric car. And I mean within the next 1 to 3 years. So all these car dealerships, all these, they're on a mad rush to sell these cars because they know a whole new flock of cars are coming. We have to make a real conscientious effort to get back to the basics. There's nothing wrong with technology, but just because you have this technology does not mean that you forego the knowledge of how to do whatever without the technology. And with the problems that we're having with arable land in America, especially in the Midwest, we have to make conscious efforts to regenerate that soil. We have to make conscious efforts to take care of the earth. And if that means going back to the old way of doing things, then that's what we need to do. If that means we need to go back to rotating crops, that's what we need to do. If that means we need to go back to, planting more cover crops, that's what we need to do. And there are efforts being made there. But for our community, the effort needs to be strengthening our local food systems, getting back to nature, stoking that knowledge of food production that is given to us through divination. We need to get back out here and practice our first job on this entire planet as humans, which was be stewards of the land.
So where's my crypto people, my blockchain people? Is there somebody working on farm bucks or food bucks? Since we see that,
I'm gonna put that out there. Don't put that
how
out
are we gonna make sure people are able to procure food in a situation where, okay, we see large groups of people are being economically disenfranchised? Value isn't just in a dollar, it isn't just in a coin. We're in a technological age where, we're finding new ways to conduct commerce. Well, when we think about our scientists, because like I said, I'm not against tech. I'm not against those techies, but I am against those thugs that can hold our community hostage when it comes to the things that we're dependent on. Going back, revisiting what we're talking about with these states cutting the $300 COVID relief. Okay, on one end, they're saying there's a shortage of labor. And so, we have a lot of states that feel like, okay, well, we can get people back to work by just, cutting off their help. But you're going back to a work with low wages. And so I'm coming to a job that's not paying me much. And then when I go to a store, everything I'm buying is costing me 2 times more than what it was. And I'm getting considerably less than what I was getting paid. And so I'm not much a mathematician at all, but how sustainable is that? Dr. Boyce is the financial man to listen to. Right here, we're talking about food. We still have to eat. Is it feasible that all of the 44 million melanated people in North America and, even around the world are going to just start gardening tomorrow? Absolutely not. Can we have 250,000 more melanated people who've committed personally to themselves to say, you know what, I'm going to learn how to start growing today in 2021 to where by 2030, whatever this world is turning into, I'm going to get skilled at it. If we have a critical mass of us to say, you know what, today I know my son, my daughter is good at this. They're good at working with their hands. They're good at making things. They're one with nature. They're physical, they're physical specimens, so to speak. As a parent, as an auntie, as an uncle, as a coach, as an influencer, I'm going to make sure we got a critical mass of our students who already know the code of, hey, we're going to need to feed ourselves. the next 5 years, 10 years of your academic or career path, focus on how we're going to feed our community. Use your connection to this technology to figure out how we're gonna minimize the distance from point A to point B. Point A being the seed in this ground or this animal, point B being the stomach of our people. Because best believe all around the world, these conversations are happening on very large scales and local scales. And every living organism on this planet, one of the first things you learn when you come into existence as a sentient being is how to feed yourself. Once again, this was the first economy. Before there was a castle built, if you want to go with the story of Adam, I bet Adam ate before he built something. And he had to eat day to day to keep building. Why would this principle be any different? When we think about the greatness, when we think about the history of the people we come from, the Moors, the Aztecs, the Olmecs, the Hebrew Israelites, every group you can think of, the Caribs, every group you can think of had to master the ability to feed themselves. And if you really want to break it down to, okay, when do we fall so weak, literally or metaphorically speaking, it is the degree that we're not able to feed ourselves. Because once again, currency hasn't always been a dollar. I mean, it's been so many things throughout centuries, throughout millennia. But the one thing that has been consistent is the ability of a people to feed themselves. We've had this discussion many times over on B1AG that food has been used as a weapon of war. It doesn't matter how good of a shot you are. If you're famished, if you can't stand up straight because you can't eat, it don't matter how good of a shot you are. These are real conversations we need to have, and we see that computers are affecting the way people eat real food. In a world where I bet a squirrel would never have to go hungry as long as he's surrounded by trees and acorns and nuts waiting on a computer system. 75% of humans in this world can fit in Texas with 10 feet around each of us. We only occupy 3% of the land here in North America. The rest of it is open land. Does that mean, just walk down the street and start planting gardens? That's not what I'm saying. But we know that there are millions of acres available for sale right now. And we also know the price of land is going up. Every day it's going up. It's becoming more and more valuable. And I feel like there's a lot of we're getting hit with a lot of distractions right now on the social level. I like to have a cool discussion. Me and him chop it up about the things going on, just in society. But, what does this society look like if people are hungry? If you got a critical mass of people that are hungry? There's some people, I make enough money to feed myself and my family. Oh, that's other people's problem. But when the people who have the problems now are eliminated, that leaves, this next layer left. There's this conversation that the middle class is getting decimated. Depending on your news source, they'll say, oh, we're going to uplift the middle class. But enough of us have lived to see, okay, what we're seeing on TV being told to us as, okay, there's a success happening. This is actually opposite. This is 1984 doublespeak. How are we going to feed ourselves? We can do all this talking, all this word salad, but are we talking about feeding ourselves? Are we gonna put our food security in the hands of computers? Are we gonna put our food? Look at all of the layers that we're putting between the seed in our stomach. At first, it was just the concept of sharecropping. Okay, I want to eat. I know how to produce it, but I got this plantation owner who done tricked me out of this land that I now have to give this to. Then I can eat. Then you added a governmental layer. Okay, you got a plantation owner, then the government. I didn't even factor in the currency, so you got 3 layers. So now you got the layer of people activity, political activity, and now you got computers. The squirrel don't have to go through this much to eat. And I keep referring to the Bible because the majority of us, whether you see the Bible as symbol or law, there are principles. Follow the ant. Does an ant have this many middlemen between eating and producing mounds? Shout out to the mound builders. Something comes along and knocks your mound down, you eat, you factor in your energy return on investment, and you keep building mounds. You don't sit and wait for the anteater to decide, now, okay, am I going to keep knocking these ant mounds down, or I'm going to let them keep building? The anteater's smart enough to know if I let them build enough, they're going to keep producing ants, and I'll just have more ants to eat. And so this is when the mind comes in, okay, we need to we need to come up with another way to protect these mounds. Maybe we need to build some of these underground a little deeper so the anteater can't get to them. And so I'm being metaphorical, but what I'm saying is our food security has to be a lot more than just I have enough money in my pocket to go to the store to get what it is I eat. We really have to look at it in depth. Not only are we supporting the few farmers, the few black farmers who've been able to keep their land, the few black farmers who have been able to enter into this market, are we making sure that we're shopping with them? Second, are we making sure that we're raising young enough students to where, okay, by the time you're in high school, your mind is formed. And it's not to say you can't teach somebody in high school something, but to really be competitive, to really apply that melanated magic to really fixing this problem, this has to start young. One of our goals is if we can, in North America, reach 250,000 third through fifth graders by hook or crook, 250,000 melanated third through fifth graders. By the time they graduate, because we believe in education, you know, we don't believe in indoctrination, but we believe in education. You know, this is how children are able to socialize. This is how they're able to kind of get a microcosm of what this competitive world look like. But if we can get a critical mass of us, this don't mean everybody got to sit down at the same table. But if we can set a goal where we need 250,000 melanated boys and girls to decide that they're going to find a niche within our food system. And this 250,000 is dispersed throughout North America. We create this food system we're talking about. Once that seed is planted in somebody's mind, hey, this is important. These are the implications of this thing that we're talking about that's important. It was a time there was no such thing as a basketball to be shot through a hoop. That didn't happen. You know, if you were saying one of the ancient times, like, why would you take a ball and throw it through a hoop? And now it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, hundreds of billion dollars industry. Saying that to say, we know agriculture, once again, was the first business. And so the degree that we can plant that seed back in our young people's mind and replant it, because it's not dead, it's just been dormant. If we can replant this seed in our communities, the adults, to see the value in it. No, it doesn't mean just stop what you're doing and go farming. But if you got some space, if you're fortunate to have some space, make you a little small garden. Experiment. Let your children see you doing that. If I'm an influencer within my community, okay, I do what I do in the streets, but I also want these young kids to see that there's something else we can do too with our hands, with our minds. And if we can work on feeding ourselves, we would jump leaps and bounds in this war that we fight against this opaque layer.
Security, food security. It's very important. It's paramount. What are we willing to do to ensure that we are food secure? In this highly evolved technological society, are we willing to forego technology for food security? These are major questions that we need to ask ourselves. Here at B1AG, do believe in getting black to the garden. Go to healthyblackfood.com and you can learn how to grow your own food. Use the promo code podcast. You'll receive an instant 30% off. If you have any questions for us, hit us up at b1aghiphop@gmail.com. Send your pictures of yourself growing food. We'll highlight it on the show. And plus, if you just something you just want to know, so we can point you to resources. You know, we want to be a conduit for the B1 family when it comes to finding out more information about food, resources, and just, you know, making sure that we're eating, making sure that our kids are eating, make sure that we are sustaining ourselves. From Brown, any final thoughts before we get cyber attacks?
The school of hard knocks. Look at these classes. Look at everything where there's a problem. Where did Tupac say, find a weakness in the game and sold it? Right now, there's a lot of weaknesses in our food system. These are not just the careers of the future, but the entrepreneurial opportunities of the future. And the degree that we can collectively take it serious as a melanated family and understand the gravity of this moment right now, the degree that we rise as a people.
And if they really like to elevate their mind state, ingratiate themselves, they really want to know something, Farmer Brown, what do they need to do?
Stay woke and learn how to grow something.
All right, y'all. We appreciate you checking in again for another episode of the Daily Bread Podcast here at B1AG. We are on this mission. It is a journey, and hopefully we'll see it to the end, the harvest. Have a wonderful day. Be prosperous. Be loving. Try to get some sunshine on your face. If it's raining, let some of those raindrops tickle your fancy on your arms. All right, y'all. Be out of here. Be safe. And be aware of these cyber attacks. You know, just go back to simple things. You know, there's nothing wrong with technology. You know, like say our smartphones, use our smartphones all day, every day, but don't forget how to just holler at somebody. You don't necessarily got to call them, holler at them. You know, don't forget what's real. Take care. See you again.